They called her a scandal and called me a thief. I opened a folder and pressed play. A voice on the recording said, $2 million. The clerk's voice echoed off the wood like the start of a funeral. All rise. I stood, hand flat on the table to stop the shake. My name on the docket didn't look real, like a stranger I might pass in a grocery store. Across the aisle, my sister sat with her hair smoothed and her smile clipped to fit the room. Our mother's pearls flashed when she turned her head. My father studied the floor as if the pattern might save him. A man in a navy suit stacked papers the way a chef sharpens knives. A text lit my phone under the desk. A selfie from Aaliyah in her galaxy pajamas. Thumbs up, eyes bright. Carla, Mia's mom, had added a glitter heart and we are here. I swallowed and slid the phone face down. The judge took her seat. Her gavel moved like a metronome. We'll begin. I could still taste rain. It started on a night that pressed the house from all sides. The storm hammered the roof like it had been waiting for me to be alone. Hot cocoa went cold at my elbow while I scrolled through design gigs. Pet brand Refresh, yoga studio logo, a brewery label with a wolf and wheat. My Broncos hoodie hung off one shoulder. Crestview, Colorado, had a way of getting quiet even when it roared outside. The knock cut through thunder. I pictured a neighbor with a flooded basement or a driver with the wrong address. When I opened the door, the porch light drew a circle in the rain and set a baby carrier right in the middle of it. The carrier was soaked. A pink blanket cupped a tiny face. Dark eyes blinked at me, steady, not a sound, like the baby was weighing me in time. Hello. My voice got eaten by wind. Headlights flashed once at the end of the street, then the scream of tires and nothing else. A note stuck to the handle with tape that had lost the fight with the weather. Letters bled. I peeled it up with clumsy fingers. The strokes were sharp and familiar. I can do this. She's yours now, Jenna. Claire. The name hit like cold water. I didn't move. Rain ran into the cuffs of my sleeves and down my palms as if my skin had forgotten where it ended. The baby blinked again. No cry. Just watching. I lifted the carrier inside. The house shrank around it. My living room smelled like coffee and old paper, but the storm dragged the scent of asphalt and pine across the rug. I shut the door, flipped the deadbolt, and stood there with my breath stuck. Okay, I said to the air. It came out small. Okay. I didn't know Claire was pregnant. The last time she called, she needed money for rent and then changed her number. Our parents, country club fundraisers, curated smiles, perfect Sutton family table pictures, had scrubbed her name off their conversations the way you wipe crumbs. I changed my last name in college and kept it that way. Perez fit in my mouth. Sutton tasted like chrome. The baby's nose wrinkled. I hovered. I'm Jenna, I said because names were something I could give. Hi. My thumb shook over my phone. Mom answered on the second ring like she'd been waiting to be inconvenienced. Do you know how late? Claire left a baby on my porch, I said. There's a note. It says, silence. The fridge hummed. The storm kicked the siding. Well, she said, I suppose she's your responsibility now. What? Mom, your sister made her choice. Her voice turned smooth. Handle it quietly. We can't have this getting out. Don't dramatize it. Put Dad on. He's asleep. Don't raise your voice at me, Jenna. This is exactly why Claire never trusted you to handle things properly. Be discreet. The click felt old and new at once. The baby let out a soft sound, like a sigh that didn't go far. I found a clean towel and set the carrier on it. The strap felt stiff with rain. My hands moved. I backed a YouTube video up 3 times to get the bottle angle right. I talked to the ceiling in the pharmacy, told a bored teenager in a blue vest why the formula aisle looked like a foreign alphabet. 12 minutes in and out, I counted, then home to a sleeping baby whose chest rose and fell as if the storm worked for her. I texted my boss at the store. Family emergency. She sent back a thumbs down emoji and see you Friday. I sat on the floor and fed the baby with both hands. When her tiny fingers closed around the drawstring of my hoodie, something clicked into place like a seatbelt. The only paper in the carrier was a half-done birth certificate application with a date, December 21st. Winter solstice. I rolled the word on my tongue, Aaliyah. It felt like a small light. Leah, I whispered to her, the nickname settling the room. You and me, okay? She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Our first weeks were a string tied from feeding to feeding, naps held together with laundry and design deadlines that outstared me from my computer. I stacked diapers like bricks. I burned 2 pots of rice. I drew logos with one hand while balancing her with the other. When the store manager called to say probation meant no emergencies, I let the silence stretch until she hung up. The savings app turned the color of warning signs. I learned the code of her tiny noises. Neighbors brought soups. Mara from next door stopped in with a secondhand crib and a laugh that made the hallway warmer. Our parents' only messages came through my mother's perfect grammar. Gala. A board seat. A reminder to stay quiet. I pinned Aaliyah's first hospital bracelet to the corkboard. The room shifted around it. I took pictures of everything. Her first smile after a bath. Her fist curled like a shell. A yawn that swallowed her whole face. In the mornings, the mountains stretched blue above Crestview as if measuring our days. At night, I worked with the lamp low and her breath steady in the bassinet. Clients liked the quick turnarounds. I liked the calm of a canvas. When she took her first steps between the couch and my knees, she didn't look proud. She looked sure. I blew bubbles and she chased them, arms out, a squeal climbing the ladder of sound. We lined the fridge with crayon suns that wore sunglasses. She painted stars that dripped. She learned to whistle without sound. Our house gathered tiny sneakers and glitter glue, and a soccer ball that always rolled toward my desk chair like it knew where to find me. I sent Claire's note to a drawer. I didn't delete it. Years stacked like books. Board books, picture books, paperbacks with dog-eared corners. Aaliyah grew into long limbs and paint on her elbows, a kid who chose goalie because she liked being the last line. I took meetings on mute while gluing a school project and learned to laugh at deadlines that walked. We celebrated the winter solstice every year with paper lanterns on the porch and hot chocolate with extra marshmallows because light needed witnesses. At parent-teacher night, an art teacher told me Aaliyah had a way of making space where there wasn't any. The kitchen wall wore a messy gallery. The neighbor's fence picked up a streak of blue where she missed. The dog down the street loved her more than its own people. She kept a roster of stuffed animals in a notebook and drew jerseys for all of them. She signed her name with a star where the dot over the I should go. She called me mom without asking permission. I let the word sit on my tongue like sugar that wouldn't melt. The knock that came 10 years after the storm didn't belong to a neighbor. It belonged to someone who expected doors to open. Aaliyah was at Mia's for a sleepover. I wiped blue streaks off the table with the hem of my t-shirt and opened the door. Claire stood in a coat that owed nothing to Colorado weather. Hair perfect, makeup like glass. Our mother's pearls were the same ones, brighter in the daylight. My father's hands sat folded in front of him like they'd been put there by a teacher. A man with a briefcase weighed the porch boards. Hey, Jenna, Claire said like she'd been away for a week, not a decade. We need to talk about my daughter. The word rolled off her mouth with care. I held the doorframe with one hand and the house with the other. Your daughter. Our daughter, she corrected. Tears flickered at the edges of her eyes. They looked professional. Let's be civil. We brought counsel, my mother said, as if offering dessert. The man with the briefcase nodded like he was agreeing with himself. I dialed Christopher. He answered before the first ring died, voice warm and wry. Tell me you only need a cup of sugar. Papers, I said. On my way. He pulled up in his blue pickup and walked through my gate like he owned the right kind of confidence. Perfect timing, the briefcase said. We were just going to present. Present them to me, Christopher said, stepping in. I'm Miss Perez's attorney. We moved to the living room because Christopher said it looked cooperative, and I said nothing because it let me sit beside him. Aaliyah's paintings stared down at us from the walls, comets and houses with 4 windows and a stick figure with a goalie stance. The briefcase, Langston, spread documents like a magician laying out cards. My client has been sober for 3 years, he said. Stable home, thriving career. You were using when you had her, I said to Claire. No heat. Just the timeline. She dabbed at her eye with a handkerchief that knew better fabrics than mine. I can give her everything she deserves, she said. She deserves a mom who stayed. My voice didn't bounce. We tried. My mother cut in. Your hostility. I opened the drawer of my desk and pulled out a folder that had grown thick and careful over the years. Voicemails that died without callbacks. Emails that asked me to keep quiet during charity weeks. Screenshots. I placed it on the table. We can all read. Langston slid a packet across. We're petitioning for full custody. Supervised visits for you. Christopher didn't blink. That's funny. My father finally lifted his eyes. You knew this was coming. No, I said. I learned not to be surprised. They left with their papers and their confidence like cologne. Christopher stayed and helped me stack everything that mattered into a neat tower. They're playing dirty, he said. Then we'll wash it, I said. He texted a name the next morning, Marcus Tate. Private investigator. He was a man who had swapped tailored suits for a jacket that didn't ask to be noticed. He went through photos like he was sorting a deck. Gala shots. Yacht shots. Parties with ice sculptures. Timestamps that spanned the years when I rocked a feverish toddler in a chair with a spring that squeaked. He slid a copy of my grandma's will onto the desk. A clause underlined. Firstborn of Claire Sutton. Trust held within the Bennett family. Marcus tapped the line. 2 million tethered to custody. Air left my chest without asking. So that's why they're moving now, he said. He found more. A fiancé, Derek, who liked sleek restaurants and expensive hobbies, willing to talk when the bill landed. He met us at a coffee shop that smelled like cinnamon. His hands shook around his cup until he told the story out loud, and his shoulders dropped like a secret got lighter. They promised to cover our wedding if she went along, he said. They called it fixing the family. They meant unlocking the trust. Would you testify? Christopher asked. Derek nodded, eyes on the door. My phone buzzed. Aaliyah, Mom, can you come get me? Her court-ordered visit at my parents' house had a time block. I beat the clock by 7 minutes. She sat on the steps with her knees tucked under her chin and a backpack at her feet. I found something, she said, voice thin. Inside, laughter tangled with glass. A photo album lay open on a table under a silver lamp. Christmases lined up like soldiers. None of them had Aaliyah in them. She doesn't know I hate vanilla, she said as we walked out. She called me sweetheart like a TV show. We ate fries in the car and said nothing for a while. Back home, Mara from next door knocked with a jaw set like a plumb line. Saw the segment, she said. Your sister on the news saying you stole her baby. I was on my porch the night she left that carrier. I'll tell a judge. Gloria Ruiz, our parents' former housekeeper, came the next day with a thin stack of copies of documents tucked under her coat. They fired me for seeing too much, she said in a voice that had weathered bigger storms. She laid out the plan drawn up months ago. Schools, tutors, an advisor for wealth management, a timeline that didn't include me until holidays. They called you Pretend Mom. Marcus tracked meetings between Claire and a judge the way a hunter reads tracks. Lunch in a quiet corner. A check arriving at a table that never asked for it. He sent photos. Christopher sent them along with an ethics complaint. The night before the hearing, Aaliyah stood at the fridge and taped up a drawing of the two of us in our yard with paper lanterns floating up like small moons. Best mom ever leaned to the side in her careful letters. For luck, she said. For truth, I said. The courtroom smelled like old polish and coffee. Judge Helen Carter glanced down at us with clean eyes that made everyone sit up straighter. Before we begin, she said, Mr. Langston, were you aware your client met with me last week? Langston tried to swallow his own tongue. Your Honor, Save it, she said, lifting a stack of photos. We'll handle the ethics separately. For now, evidence. Christopher opened with the note. I can do this. She's yours now, Jenna. He played voicemails in a quiet that hummed. Claire's voice asking me to take the baby for a month, promising to send money that never came, saying I was better at this, that the baby was better off where she'd been left. Texts from my mother reminded me of events that mattered to people who'd never held a fevered forehead at 3 a.m. Gloria took the stand and told the room about a study full of folders and plans that named Aaliyah without ever saying her name. Mara described the night on the porch, the rain swallowing my shout, the car leaving without a glance back. Marcus explained timestamps and bank trails and a lunch that should not have happened. Derek's voice came through a recorder. Once we get the kid, we access the trust fund. Fix everything. The air pulled tight. Claire stood. I love my daughter, she said. Tears left clean tracks. I'm sober now. I have a home. I can give her more. Miss Sutton, the judge said, voice even. What is your daughter's favorite color? Claire blinked. Pink. Or, what is she allergic to? She will. What sport does she play? Who is her best friend? Claire's eyes went to my mother. My mother's pearls shifted. Purple, I said, standing. Christopher's hand brushed my sleeve and then dropped. Strawberries. She plays soccer. Gully. Best friends, Mia. Since kindergarten. Loud spaces make her flinch. She paints with both hands when she's excited. She keeps her pencils in a shoebox and names them after planets. She hates vanilla. The judge's mouth tilted, not a smile. Not pity. Something quiet. I've heard enough, she said. Paper slid under her hand. In 30 years, I've rarely seen a cleaner attempt to manipulate a child in a court. Petition for custody is dismissed with prejudice. An investigation into the trust fund scheme will be referred to the proper authorities. A temporary restraining order will prevent contact outside legal channels. Mr. Langston, expect a call from the bar. Court is adjourned. The gavel landed. The room let out a breath it had been holding since the storm 10 years ago. Claire reached for my sleeve in the hallway. Jenna, please. You stopped being my sister on a porch, I said. No heat. The sentence knew its own weight. Let her be a kid. Christopher walked me down the steps and into air that tasted like snow. It's over, he said. It's different, I said. That's enough. Aaliyah waited on our porch with Mia and Carla. The moment she saw my face, she ran. Hair flying, shoes slapping the boards. Is it? It is, I said. She jumped and I lifted her like she was still small enough to toss. Carla wiped at her eyes and waved us inside. The kitchen smelled like chocolate and butter. Mia stuck a cookie into the air like a trophy. News alerts stacked up on my phone. Headlines used words like scheme and exposed and trust. My parents' names were spelled right for once. A crash came from the sink. Aaliyah stood with a broken glass and her phone lit, mouth tight. Text, she said, handing me the screen. From Claire. I'm sorry. You deserve better from me. Do you want to answer? I asked. No, she said, and swept the glass into the dustpan with careful strokes. It doesn't change anything. That night, after Mia and Carla left, Aaliyah laid papers out on the kitchen table like an art project. Name change, she said. I printed it at school. I don't want Bennett anywhere near me. I want Perez for real. That's a big step. I know, she said. I've known since spring. She pointed to the signature line and then to herself. I choose you back. We filled in the blanks. Christopher texted back with a list of steps and 3 thumbs up emojis. On the fridge, best mom ever watched us like a witness. Hey, Mom, Aaliyah said when I tucked her in, the words soft and plain. Thanks for fighting. Always. I know, she said. That's why you get the big mug for Coco. When the house got quiet, I opened my laptop. The adoption petition I drafted after a long night of fear and resolve waited like a door I hadn't tried yet. The cursor blinked. I filled in the date. I printed the pages and stacked them with the name change forms. The printer clicked and found its rhythm. Snow started outside, small flakes that didn't ask for attention. The heater kicked on. The house breathed with us. A footstep at the hall. Aaliyah stood there, hair sleep-wild, eyes half closed. Can't sleep, she said and slid onto the couch with the ease of 10 years. What's that? Paperwork. For us. For us, I said. She leaned her head on my shoulder. Good, she murmured, already fading. The universe got it right. Weeks folded into each other with the soft work of rebuilding. Judge Carter signed orders with a pen that didn't shake. The trust fund froze under an independent trustee who asked for receipts from old years and new ones. Langston left his firm quietly. My parents put their Denver house on the market. A real estate listing sat under a photo of a staircase that had never squeaked because no one had ever run up it on bare feet. There was talk of Florida. There were no calls. Claire sent 2 more texts, both short. I blocked the number. A woman at the grocery store stopped me near the apples and whispered, "Good for you," like a secret recipe. The girl at the pharmacy gave me a discount on vitamins and didn't look at my name. Marcus dropped by with a bag of bagels and a shrug. "Saw the snow coming," he said. He set a small photo on the table. Aaliyah on our porch holding a lantern shaped like a star. Last winter, cheeks pink, eyes bright. From your neighbor's holiday card. She sent it to me by accident. Keep it. Aaliyah's soccer team made the playoffs. At practice, she stood square in the goal and let the whole field line up behind her spine. At night, she painted comets with heavy brush strokes and pressed glitter into the tail with her thumb. We signed a stack of papers at the county office, hands cramping, heart steady. The clerk stamped dates without looking at faces. When it was done, Aaliyah held the new certificate up to the light. "Perez," she said, tasting it. "Looks right." Christopher took us out for tacos. He let Aaliyah pick the hot sauce and made a face that got a snort. He toasted with horchata. "To the 2 toughest people I know." "3, Aaliyah said, pointing her straw at him. "You count." At home, winter crept down off the mountains, clean and slow. We hung paper lanterns early that year and left them up through January. The house kept a new stillness, not empty declared. The cupboard held cocoa and a good mug. The living room wore a second-hand rug that Aaliyah and I chose because the pattern looked like a river. The desk had a new chair that didn't squeak. Bills got paid. Clients sent referrals. I added a line to my website, Family First Freelancer. It felt simple, true. One night, after a game where Aaliyah saved a shot with a palm that left a red mark, she stood at the sink, sleeves pushed up, washing paint off her hands. "Do you think she'll ever come back?" she asked. She didn't say the name. "She might," I said. "What would you do?" I folded a dish towel and laid it on the counter. "Make sure you were safe. Make sure you were heard." Aaliyah nodded and turned off the tap. Drops hung on her fingers like tiny glass beads. "Okay," she said. "I can handle that." We went to the porch and lit 2 lanterns for no reason but quiet. They rose warm into cold air, small suns against a white sky. A car passed slowly on our street and kept going. The mountains held their line. My phone buzzed with a new client who wanted a logo shaped like a pine cone and a promise to pay on time. Aaliyah leaned on the rail and whistled without sound, a tune that seemed to match the way the lanterns drifted. Inside, the fridge hummed. Crayons slept in their box. The note in the drawer stayed as it was, thin raw, a relic that no longer steered the house. I left it there, where it could yellow in peace. Snow began again, small and careful. We watched it for a while without speaking. Then Aaliyah turned, took my hand, and tugged me inside. The door clicked shut, and the porch light traced a soft circle on the drifted steps, an island that didn't need to be big to be enough.